Okay, so I've left the Big Blue Hotel. If you haven't seen that previous vlog, I've had an awesome day at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So now I went back, freshened up a bit, cozied up a bit in warm, fresh clothing. Now I'm walking all the way down the promenade past the park and go to the main entrance for Journey Tower. Let's go. We've all just been allowed in and everybody seems to be swarming for the first maze they see. Impossible Freak House. So I'm going to find something else. Possibly the Ghost Train or the Lost. Work a different way around than everybody else. Came straight to the Ghost Train. Number 1. God damn it, that was scary. That really got me. That was so good. The actors were giving their absolute all, and they had amazing places to be hiding and do stuff. I was really on edge going through that and really jumped. So a really strong start. I have heard that's the strongest, but we'll try ourselves. We'll see for ourselves what everything's like. Next up, I think this is Twisted Tunnels. Let's go. Okay, so Twisted Tunnels and Dark Icon. Love Icon. That's my 5th time riding today, if you include Enzo. So it was great. Nighttime, great. Fantastic ride. I've been, as I just said, that was my 5th time today. Still lots of twists and surprises. I totally forgot about a bunch of it. So I'm just walking through Carnival. I'll give some thoughts on the rest. Okay, so I was walking through Carnival and I ended up getting wrangled to turn around and go into the Lost. So I've been in the Lost now, so that's the Lost and Twisted Tunnels are the 2 main kind of mazes. I had a bit more of a scare in the Lost because there was more of that kind of pure horror maze element to it. I think the main thing I'm getting from those 2 mazes is that they have lots of potential, but that potential's just not fully realised yet. Especially Twisted Tunnels. That is such an awesome space. You can have a really long, really intense maze going through there. They've gone for kind of the show scene route, so it was very akin to the dungeons for me. And the Lost was slightly akin to the dungeons as well, but it also had some, you know, jumpy, scary bits in between, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. However, yeah, just both of them just need refining. I think what the Lost needs more than anything is a roof. A roof put over it so you forget that you're in a huge building, because that's what it reeked of. So now we've only got the river caves, the impossible madhouse, and something else left. Oh, the dodgems. Also, can I just say, I can't believe I'm about to do dodgems at a scare event. Very bizarre choice of attraction to include. Is what it is. So I'm gonna, I guess, head to keep some dodgems. Two attractions left now. River Caves and Impossible Freak House. I've been here about an hour. We'll see if it's worth admission costs when we get to the end. Okay, so I just got out of Freak House. Overall experience has lasted an hour and a half. I have thoughts, but you know what? I need to eat. I still haven't eaten since lunch, so I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna return to my hotel room, and then I'll gather my thoughts, reviews of each attraction, because it's all a bit jumbled in my head right now. So I'm gonna go out, and then I'll meet you there. On a side note, been really enjoying seeing the illuminations. I took a little walk down. Now I'm going back to the hotel room, but absolutely beautiful. See the tower in the distance. Awesome. Okay, so final thoughts. Just to add perspective, Pleasure Beach is still somewhere that's really new to me. As a park, having only come here for the first time in my life in the summer. You know, I've been to all the Merlin parks a million times over, but it wasn't until this year where I actually came here myself. So I never came with my parents or anything as a kid. And with that in mind, this is also my first time doing the Journey to Hell Freak Nights. So nothing that I did was, you know, it isn't coming through the lens of being something stale or something that's unchanged or something that's gotten better or gotten worse. But what I saw from the event in general is potential. That's the biggest word there. Nothing about the event was particularly awful, but I think where it was strong, it was quite strong, and where it was weak, it was quite weak. And I feel like Pleasure Beach have their strengths, and they've played to those strengths, and they have weaknesses or something that might be new to them when it comes to running a Halloween event. So, starting with the strengths, being able to ride Icon in the dark. Big Icon fan. Loved the actors in the queue line. Loved how dark the queue line was. Loved that it was, you know, branded as a totally dark experience, so not lit up as a night ride. It was a dark ride. Whereas totally dark. And because the coaster had warmed up through the day, it was running really well. And it was a phenomenal ride through on Icon. Loved that. Another strength, possibly the biggest strength, was the Ghost Train. Ghost Trains were already, you know, jumpy. I'd done the Ghost Train in the summer. I thought it was cute. Didn't think it was a particularly scary Ghost Train. But I started off with that and leapt out of my skin multiple times. They had put the actors in really clever places. They had set up scenes in different ways compared to the daytime when I'd done it in the summer. Added new sound effects. And put the actors in really clever places at times. Really got me. And that whole being on your own in that car, going through, unable to, you know, kind of get out or move or make your own path. You're forced through this path, and you're forced to, I guess, come to terms with and experience everything that had to go on. That was really good. It reminded me of when I was younger and doing Dual Live, when that was a thing at Alton Towers for their Scarefest, but on a totally different level. It was really good. Ghost Train, Vault of Shadows. So I really liked that. Another strength was the river caves. I already find a couple of those scenes kind of creepy during the daytime. So doing it at night time in total darkness with some creepy sound effects, some ambient screaming with the lantern. I was kind of worried at the start, actually, that I was just going to be on a boat by myself much like I was in a car by myself on the ghost train. So I had actually, I had been putting that off until quite late, until I'd warmed up. I don't know why, just the idea of going through the river caves in the dark really got me nervous, got me really anxious. They did actually put a group of 2 in the back. I was in the front row holding the lantern and counted 4 actors in there. Didn't count the number of actors in Ghost Train. I was panicking about halfway through Ghost Train. It was really good. But in River Caves I counted 4, and apart from one of them whose strobe went off way too early, we were kind of at the start of the room and her strobe had started going off, and I was like, yeah, well, there's someone there. And so we were prepared for it. But I had a really good laugh with the people behind me as well. I've kind of gotten into the dodgems now. Hear me out. Yes, it's a scare event. It's meant to be scary. It's meant to be scary stuff. The dodgems is such a bizarre left field choice. But the vibes of the carnival area were really cool. And there was a team member in a bunny costume. And she got right up close and personal. She was climbing on people. She was whipping people with her little whip. And she picked one single rider to sit next to. Thank God it wasn't me. I was not looking forward to it. I don't think we would have fit in together. I'm quite large. At the end of the day, it was camp. And, you know, Halloween doesn't have to be 100% scares all the time. It can be camp and fun and a bit of a party, and you know, I think it kind of hit that nail on the head. It was a nice bit of release. It was a nice change of pace, and although going on dodgems by yourself is not the most fun, I still had a fun time going through the dodgems. And then unfortunately that does lead to the weaknesses, which were the actual kind of maze experiences. I feel like maybe they need to get a company or a director or somebody in who's actually experienced with doing these scare events and hiring the right actors. In terms of a ranking, it would probably go The Lost, Twisted Tunnels, and then way at the bottom would be Impossible, Freak House. So The Lost, there were some good scenes there. I think the main problem with what they're doing is they're trying to set up these scenes where the whole group stands still in one area, and then the actors say something, and you're trying to piece together some kind of story, and then no scares are being hit. So then when you're walking from part to part, there isn't actually any scaring happening. But in The Lost, they did actually have kind of traditional maze sequences between the scenes where they had actors, they had loud noises, they had effects. The biggest thing is just how open it is. I mean, they tried to keep it dark. I'd heard that it was very bright this year. I'm quite happy to report that it's no longer very bright. It is strip LEDs on the floor, but the walls that they've set up was still really low. There was no kind of immersion of being lost. It is still just black netting about to my head height, and seeing the lights. They needed to either cover it or they need to get the walls up much higher, just to block out the fact that the whole time, if you look even remotely up, you can see the open building. Other than that, some of the scenes were good. Some of the actors were good. Some of the sound effects were good. And again, some of the transition areas were good. Twisted Tunnels coming in the middle of those three, because it's a really great place. It's a really great place to have a scare maze. There's so much potential that you can have through these really long corridors and really winding corridors and tight corridors and bits of, you know, infrastructure that you can play around with. And they had decorated some really nice scenes. But again, it was another scene-based event. There weren't really scares between. There was once or twice, there was one random Dracula that tried to scare us, and then there was, right at the beginning, it was meant to be like a patient in a strobe corridor right near the beginning, but they didn't really do anything. And then I think there were a couple of scenes that were set up that had no actors in, so then when you walk through those scenes, nothing happened, and everybody in the group was confused. And that's the worst thing that could happen, is that the group becomes confused. Sorry, I'm just hearing the screams. I can hear people on Icon still. It's still going on. It took me an hour and a half to finish everything, but it is still going on. I didn't need to rush as much as I thought I did. I could have eaten beforehand. So yeah, Twisted Tunnels, there's so much potential with the setting and with the set dressing. The set dressing was really good. The scenes that they'd made up, but it was just disjointed. There was no coherent story going through. It was some creepy guy, then it was a fortune teller, then it was somebody screaming about a murderer, then the murderer takes you to a pub, and then she shoos you out, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then there's a mine scene. That was when there was no actor. There was a random corridor with a Dracula in it. It just didn't make sense. And I was in the middle of the group, and all of the jump scares were going to the people at the front. There was no waiting of any of the actors hiding to try and get anyone near the back. It was just the actors at the front, just the people at the front of the group, sorry, that got the scares. And then, possibly worst of all, yeah, no, definitely the worst of the lot, the weakest, was the Impossible Freak House. I jumped in there once. Why did I jump in there? Because somebody in the group was messing about and they were popping balloons on the floor. The noise of balloons popping made me jump. Nothing else made me jump. Bearing in mind, clowns never scare me. They never scare me. I've never been in a clown maze where the clowns have actually scared me. I'm not scared of clowns. And so immediately the setup was not there for me. And the guy who let you in, he was saying some weird stuff about peeing on the floor, and I had put my beanie on because I had hat hair and I was sick of my beanie being in my pocket. And he was like, "Are you going skiing?" And I'm thinking, what setup is this? I said, "No." And he was like, "Oh, you're wearing a hat. You wear a hat to go skiing." And I'm thinking, huh? What was the setup? What was the punchline? It wasn't even funny. I think some of those actors especially were not commanding of their scene. And they just felt like employees who had probably been pressured into doing this for Pleasure Beach. I'm not sure how true that is, of employees being hired as scare actors rather than actual actors. If that's true, stop it. Pay for actual actors. And then, yeah, they weren't commanding of their scenes. They were trying to be, they were trying to control the group, and the group just were not controllable. And it was over incredibly quickly. We were in and out. It was incredibly quick. We got to the exit and I went, oh, okay. Considering the Lost wasn't long, but it was, the Lost also felt like it ended a little bit short, but it wasn't too short. I was like, oh, that could have gone on longer, whatever. Twisted Tunnels went on very long. But then Impossible Freak House, I was still waiting for it to pick up. But it never picked up. The only scare I got was with the chainsaw, because even though I've seen chainsaws in mazes a million times now, and I know that there's no blade in them, the chainsaw can't hurt me, I still dance around on the spot when they go for my legs. So that was probably the only positive of the Impossible Freak House, is that chainsaws do get me. No matter how much I tell myself that I can't get hurt by these chainsaws, I still dance around on the spot like a monkey. So, all things considered, was it worth £39.50? Bearing in mind, going to Alton Towers or Thorpe Park for Scarefest or Fright nights, you would pay around £40 as is, just to get in, and then you would pay £30 each for 3 mazes. So it's about £70 to fully experience Fright Nights or Scarefest, as a rough estimation, as a non-pass holder. So it was cheaper. It did offer more, but I think, even though I haven't been to Fright Nights yet this year, went last year, haven't been to Scarefest yet, going to Scarefest tomorrow, my previous judgments of Scarefest and Fright Nights would put a much higher value on that £30 for 3 mazes than the £39 for 3 mazes, plus Icon, plus the Ghost Train, plus the River Caves, plus the Dodgems. But there's potential. They just need a bit of help, I think, because there's potential and there's promise. I did have fun, but I had blasted through the attractions in an hour and a half. If I could have reridden Icon, if I could have gone through the mazes a second or third time, I definitely would recommend it then. But with only one go per maze, it just wasn't it. Bearing in mind, I also did not do Passage del Terra, even though I want to. I've never done it because my other half wants to do Passage del Terra, and I'm waiting to do it with them when we next come to Pleasure Beach together, rather than just me doing it myself, because I thought it's 15 quid on top of paying for the hotel with the ticket bundle and then paying for this event, or to do it myself. So I decided not to do it this time. So I'm hoping to do Passage del Terra next year. Anyway, it is nearly time for me to go to bed. I wasn't expecting to go to bed this early, but I'm going to be up really nice and early because I've got an early breakfast booked at the Big Blue Hotel, and then I'm driving down roughly 2 hours to Alton Towers for Scarefest, which I haven't done since 2020. So I'm excited to go back, even though half of it's still the same as it was last time I went. So if you got to this point, please subscribe, please like, please leave a comment. Have you been to Journey to Hell Free Nights? What did you think? What do you think Pleasure Beach should do going forward? And I'll see you in the next vlog. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.